Hey, my name is Ryan, and if you're seeing this video right now, you're probably searching on YouTube about the Chase Bank, the Chase Money glitch, and you've landed in the right place. I want to share with you my experience about testing one of these things when I was 18 years old. I want to let you guys know already and just give you my personal experience about doing something with a bank that got me in a decent amount of trouble when I was 18 years old, so that this video can be educational in that you don't make the same mistake that I did when I was 18 years old. And so if you find value in this video at any point, do me a favor, like this video, consider sharing this with somebody else. I'm going to share with you my raw, candid testimony. I don't think I've shared this testimony with anybody, really not to the full extent of what I'm going to do right now. And so I just pray that you guys bear with me to the end of this video. And I know that some of you guys may be encouraged and not go through with what you're thinking or considering doing right now. Okay. So the first thing that I want to say, if you haven't been paying attention on social media, I started noticing that all these videos were popping up, especially on TikTok, where people were, sharing their screenshots or sharing videos of them lined up outside of Chase Bank, trying to pull off what they are calling an infinite money glitch. Essentially, what this strategy was or is you would go to a bank and essentially have a check drafted in your own name, and either deposit the check in your account, because Chase is known for having great relationships with their clients, typically either the same day or then the next day. Whatever the check total is, Chase will release those funds into your account before they have time to validate and vet the total amount. And so people are walking away with $50,000, $80,000. I've seen people with more than $100,000 that they were able to get available for essentially writing a fraudulent check to themselves, and then they would transfer the funds to another bank account. And so the first thing that I want to say, this is not a new glitch. This has been around since the 90s, maybe even before that. When I was a senior in high school, I remember it like it was yesterday, because this was a moment that kind of changed the trajectory of my life. In December of 2005, I had just turned 18. It was around Christmas time. I got involved with this, I guess, money glitch, essentially this type of fraudulent activity. Now, I at the time was smart enough. I was approached by some people who were, I would just say they were finessers, they were scammers, they were people who were associated with my family. I'll just leave it at that. And they presented me an opportunity to make some quick money. And being an 18-year-old kid, sometimes you just do dumb things. You just do things that make no logical sense. I wanted to create a name for myself. I wanted to be like the people that I was hearing in some of my favorite music that I was listening to at that moment in time. I remember one of my favorite songs was "I'm a Hustler" by Cassidy, and I kept speaking that word over my life. I kept singing that song over and over my life until it became literal, like where this opportunity for me to hustle and to defraud a bank actually came into my life. And so now, back then, the scam worked a little bit different. Essentially, how this worked was I was I guess a recruiter for this particular type of scam. The people who got me involved, they would make a fraudulent check, and they would recruit people like myself to find people who would be willing to have a check written out in their name. And if you were to recruit these people, basically they would give you a commission for part of the money that they were able to acquire from these banks. Now, the glitch that people are talking about with Chase Bank, the bank that was actually doing this at the time, was Bank of America. I remember, kind of like it was yesterday, getting into a vehicle, going to the valley in California, and going far away from my house with someone that I had convinced to do this with, and I'm around people that I know through my family. I didn't know these people all that well, and now it's here. I'm sitting here in this car wearing a disguise. We're going to several banks in a day. We're hitting these banks up with these fraudulent checks, and I just remember like God, how did I get here? Um, I didn't know how I got there. Um, at the time, you're young, you're dumb. Some of the people I are with, again, I can tell that they had been um, gone to prison before, because one of the things that they told me specifically, um, as we're getting going through with this, is that if the police were to show up, that they were prepared to shoot them, that they weren't going to go back to jail. And so, like, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at one of the vehicles that was accompanying us on these trips, and these guys have, like, machine guns, and I'm not really, like, I'm in prayer mode now. Now I remember God. Now I remember the things I was taught, and I'm just praying to God that, God, if you get me out of this situation, um, I would never do anything illegal again. And so somehow, some way, we were able to go to multiple banks, get tens of thousands of dollars in a single day, um, doing this. But what the crazy part about this is, like, about when you trust scammers, you can get scammed yourself. And so I remember, one of my family members was the person who got me into recruiting people to do this particular scam and defrauding banks. And my own family member didn't even pay me my recruiting fee. So essentially, I did this for nothing. I did this. I didn't even get anything from it. And I can remember, like it was yesterday, unlike what's happening right now with the Chase Bank fraud situation, where people are waking up, especially this past weekend, Memorial Day, a couple of days after they do this particular thing, they see their bank account go negative. Now, back in 2005 and 2006, where this scam was prevalent, it would take sometimes the bank a month, 2 months, 3 months before that they would realize that the money wasn't real or the money wasn't there. I don't know how they did it. I never got into the specifics of that, but it would take a while. And so what people would specifically do back then, which I see and hear people are talking about right now, is they would close their accounts and essentially, like, pretend nothing happened. Now, I remember, this was we're in January of 2006, and it's the reason why I remember it is because I was on a performance. It was for Martin Luther King holiday. I was playing in Lamart Park when I got the scariest phone call of my life. My phone is literally going off the hook. I'm seeing so many missed calls, and I actually, it was a call from one of my teachers from my high school who was telling me that I'm getting ready to go to prison because he understood what I did. The person that I recruited in this situation, again, at the time, there, the bank found out pretty quicker than, I guess, most of the times that people were doing this scam. And basically what they told the teacher, because now that they were kind of caught, they didn't know what to do. They went to this teacher and they told them that um, I had kidnapped them. And so now this turned into, like, a different type of legal situation where police were starting to get involved, the FBI was starting to get involved, the bank was getting involved, And I'm sitting here as an 18-year-old kid. I'm sitting here scared out of my mind because now I'm an adult. I'm actually 18 years old. I know that I could be held liable for some of the things that I had done, and I just remember um, just being scared, not knowing what to do next. The only thing I knew to do was do what I was trained to do, and I just began to pray. I just began to repent. I began to cry out to God. I'm like, God, I don't know how I got here, but if you get me out of this situation, I will never do anything illegal for money again. And to my knowledge, I've held that promise. I remember, um, I don't know how this started to blow under the radar for a moment, but I remember um, there was another scary day where I was. This had to be like maybe a week or two later. I'm sitting in my house and I get this eerie feeling. I look outside and there's all of these police outside of my house. They're like armored police. They're like, you know, to the nine with artillery weapons. They have like one of those like police vehicles, the battering ram kind of vehicles where they break into your bust into your house. And I'm like, oh man, like this is for real. Like I'm really about to go to prison right now. And I see the police. They're coming. They're coming. It looks like they're approaching my house, and then they kick in the house, the door across the street from my house. When I tell you like the biggest sigh of relief, in that moment again, I just fell on my knees and just continued to pray. Um, I it wasn't shortly after that I received a call from a lady who worked at the Bank of America fraud department, um, who I'm assuming was on the phone with the FBI. And she talked to me. She had done a lot of extensive research on who I was, um, and she just had a real kind of conversation with me. She says, I could ruin your life. I am the person who could escalate this to the point where you go to prison for X number of years. She's like, but I see that from talking to some people that you are getting ready to go to college, and I'm gonna do you the best favor of your life. I'm going to make the situation go away from you, but you have to promise me that you would never do anything illegal for money again, and you have to pay the money back. And I'm like, this is a bargain for me. Like I with what I was facing, I could have went to prison for at least 9 years, just on some of the charges that they were talking about bringing up for me. And I knew that it was just God, because I remember having, after starting this payment agreement with the bank and personally starting to pay this money back, I never told on anybody. I never mentioned nobody's names. I never did any of that. I accept the responsibility for my part of it, and I did what I thought was the right thing to do, and I just started to pay the money back. And um, I remember right when I was getting ready to pay, finish paying off the balance, because it took me a long time to pay off this balance of what I owed the bank. Um, I remember calling in and asking to speak to this lady specifically, and the bank saying that we don't have anybody who works here by that name. We don't have anybody who's ever worked here by that name. And so I truly believe, as a believer, that God intervened in my situation, because um, now I could be here possibly helping save somebody else's life. You're watching this video right now. You're considering doing something illegal for money because you're in a desperate situation. I'm telling you, um, there's another way. You don't have to do what you're about to do. And again, I made one of the greatest mistakes for my life. It took me years to pay for this, but also it cost me so much mental anguish. One of the things that I would go through is I would have like these sleepless nights. Like where I lived when I was going to college, I lived right by a parking lot, and it would be all of these like, just like you see in the movies, man. There would be these like white vans. They would pull up, and they would pull up behind my window, and they would sit there for hours, and it felt like I was being recorded. I felt like I was being watched. I felt like I was being monitored pretty much everywhere I went. And so like I would literally stay up. I couldn't sleep at night. I was thinking like any moment, like the government or FBI or anybody, these people were going to just change their mind. They were going to break into my room and arrest me, and I was going to go to jail for a long time. And that paranoia of just having years of my life where I just didn't sleep, not have sound sleep. Again, it wasn't worth anything. Again, I didn't get anything out of it. And I'm telling you, if you pull this off, you're not going to get anything out of it either. I would encourage you to look that there are legitimate ways that you can make money. There are legitimate ways that banks have a way that you can refer people to their bank and actually get paid for referring people to the bank. You don't have to do anything legal for money. And one of those things, I will put a link here. One of the banks that have a relationship with now, and that's another thing. Like if you do this on your own account or do this with someone else's account, what happens is you get placed in this program called check systems, and it will literally take you 7 to 10 years to be able to open another bank account if you're able to ever open one again. And I don't want you to waste 7 to 10 years of your life trying to put the pieces of your life back together because you just did something dumb because you need a momentary fix or momentary hit of money. And so I want to encourage you, again, if you're watching this video, this is my own personal testimony about me doing one of these money glitches when I was a kid. And again, it cost me so much of my life. I pray that you don't do the same thing. And so, with that being said, if you found value in this video, do me a favor, like this video. Consider to share it with somebody else who maybe consider trying to do one of these um, money flips. It's going to cost you more in the end. You're really not going to get anything out of it. And so, I pray that this bless you. That's my testimony. God really intervened. It could have been another way, and that's why I do go so hard for God, because it could have been a different way for me. And so, with that being said, God bless you. I pray that this message touched you in some type of way, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless. Bye bye.